Hey, it's Rebecca, and you are listening to Resilient by Design. Today's podcast topic comes directly from a request from one of our listeners inside the Designer Meetups Facebook group. I always say at the end of the episode, go join our group if you're not a member. And if you want to hear about something specific, let me know because I'm going to answer it. So the question was about COVID-related costs and how prices have increased really across the board. And how do you manage that with your clients? So I want to dive in a little bit to talk about the power of really your onboarding process, to be completely frank. But I'm going to share with you kind of what I know about what's happening in the industry and how I would go about that with my clients. And at the end, I hope you get some clarity on managing expectations with clients because it is a little bit of a bogus world right now. And the thing is, it's not just going to go away like that. So I think we all need to adapt to our new reality and find ways to still keep our clients happy, even though we've kind of lost a bit of control of certain elements that we used to really be able to manage. So here we go. I hope you guys enjoyed today's episode.
All right. I'm Rebecca Hay, and I've built a successful interior design business by trial and error, podcasts, online courses, and so many freaking books. Over the last decade, I've grown from an insecure student to having false starts to careers, and now I'm finally in the place where I want to be. Throughout my journey, it's been pretty obvious that I'm passionate about business and helping other entrepreneurs do the same. Each week, I'll share tangible takeaways from my own experience and the experiences of other badass women to help you build your confidence and change your business.
You guys know there is nothing I love better than staying in my all-day PJs all day. Abode has launched my new favorite set of buttery soft pajamas that come in 3 fabulous colors: snow, camel, and my personal fave that's on the thumbnail for this podcast, midnight. I feel so put together, whether I'm recording a podcast like this, meeting a client on Zoom, or tucking myself into bed with the kids at story time. And as you all know, I'm a pretty big fan of the classics when it comes to design. And that translates to literally everything I purchase for my own home decor and my clients. And of course, my fashion. Abode also has the perfect luxurious 100% cotton, timeless bedding. It pairs perfectly with my chic all-day PJs. You gotta invest in your rest. Check them out at lovemyabode.com. and type in Resilient10 for $10 off your very first order. Treat yourself to the perfect pair of luxurious all-day PJs and soft cloud bed linens. All right, where do I begin? It's one of those things that a lot of us struggle with communicating difficult subjects to our clients. And I think for me personally, it stems from my fear of confrontation. I did not grow up in a confrontational household. I'm not from a family where conflict was king. I know from my experience living in Spain that I really struggled when I was with my Spanish family, and there was a lot of what sounded to me like shouting and yelling in Spanish, and there was like a passion behind it, but there was just this constant conflict, which really made me feel uneasy because I didn't grow up with it. But if you're someone who grew up with it, it comes naturally to you. I know my husband absolutely thrives on conflict, and he has no problem telling someone like it is or calling someone out. I certainly have struggled. Part of it could also come down to people pleasing. And when you run a service-based business, unfortunately, this can hold you back a little bit in your growth. I think that some of the people in my city anyhow, that I've seen that are really successful are the ones who just have a no BS attitude and they just call it like it is. And I've always admired people like that and wanted to be more like that. But the reality is that is just not who I am. And so I have to find ways to make it more possible to communicate and confront clients when difficult situations arise. So this episode, I want to talk about, it's kind of a bigger topic, I think, which is client communication. And, but it's really, the question was about COVID prices and how they've increased. So I think the best place to start is at the beginning. And if you are listening and you have not downloaded my free discovery call script, I highly recommend you open up a computer right now and you go to RebeccaHay.com / oh boy, hold on. I'm going to do this right now and figure this out. RebeccaHay.com / I think it's discovery. Let's see, guys. I don't really know. If you go to my website, there's a place there to download it. So go to RebeccaHay.com. You know what? I'll find out what the actual URL is and I'll tell you. And the reason I'm saying to go download it, and for those of you who've downloaded it before and are using it, then you know why I'm starting here. Because for the longest time, my initial interaction with a client would set the tone for a relationship that was not as forthcoming, that was not as transparent. And so what I found was down the road, then I would start to encounter problems. And it's a lot harder to fix those when you're far in it than it is to prevent them from the beginning. I can't tell you how often I get DMs on Instagram from designers, listeners who say, oh my gosh, I'm in this pickle with a client. What do I do? And of course, my first thought is, well, how did you set their expectations from the beginning? Because I know you can't go back and change it, but every time you encounter a difficult situation with a client, especially when it comes to pricing, in my experience, there's a lesson to be learned. What didn't I do to set them up for success or to set up the expectation of how things were going to run? Whether it's, do I share my discounts? I recently had someone send me a DM about that, like how, I'm so far along in the project and I think they're going to want my discounts, but like, how do I tell them I don't share them? And in my head, I'm thinking, well, shoot, that conversation needed to be had from the very first encounter. That doesn't help the person in the moment, but I really am such a strong believer in learning from our experiences. And it's not just learning from our mistakes. Sometimes we encounter a difficult situation, we troubleshoot how to figure it out, it's uncomfortable, we do it and we move on, but that's still a learning opportunity because as a business owner, you have to continually be reevaluating how you do things and making things better. Our process, and you guys know I talk about process all the time, internal systems, because they have been a game changer in my business. But that doesn't mean that we have it locked and loaded and we have one way to do things and it will never change. In the last year and a half, I've had freelancers, I've had designers come to work for me who said, oh, well, this is changing, but I thought you had a process that was like set in stone. And my response is always, no, it's constantly evolving and changing as our projects change, as our clients evolve, as we have different members on the team. We're always trying to make ourselves better. That doesn't mean our process doesn't work, but it means you have to have realistic expectations of what it means to have a process. And so the very first part of our process is qualifying our clients with a discovery call. And that's why I say to download the script, which I'm still trying to find, by the way, because I start talking and then I forget. So I think it's on my website, RebeccaHay.com. You go to Tools of the Trade. We just did our new website, by the way. I wanted to do a big party, a website launch party. But here's the thing. I'm just going to do a little digression here. When you do a website, like when you redo it, and it's like, boom, it's live. There's like a million little things like bugs and glitches and things that are wrong that we were like, I don't know, I don't want to announce this to the world and everyone descends on our site. Of course, I'm sure hundreds are descending on our site. And then there'll be all these issues. So it's kind of been a little anticlimactic. So this is my announcement here, guys. Go check out my new website, RebeccaHay.com. But if you do go there, you go to Tools of the Trade and you scroll down, you can get my discovery call script. Just click on grab the script and you fill in your name and your email and we will email it to you. So it's a really useful tool to help you have those initial conversations with that potential client, because this will get you ahead of all those uncomfortable conversations, especially when it comes to COVID pricing and increases. And I'm going to get to that in a minute and talk specifically about pandemic-related costing. But the discovery call is really the first opportunity for you to educate your client, on who you are, what type of work you like to do, and what your process is like. what does it look like for them to work with you, right? If you don't have a process, by golly, you need to get one, because as soon as I started talking and sharing about my process, that became like an absolute selling feature of working with us. And we've had clients tell us, and I even had a client interviewed here on the podcast, Kelly and Glenn. I have to go back and see what episode, I'll find out what episode that was, who talk about, it's funny, it's like, I never thought I could interview a client on a podcast. And we talk about awkward things too, about pricing and numbers and discounts. We talk about discounts in that one too, actually. Oh my gosh, guys, if you haven't listened to it, I'm going to find it and tell you which one it is. I'll figure it out. I wish I could search podcasts. Oh, maybe I can. Anyway, I'm getting sidetracked. I'm just like thinking of all this useful stuff that I've already talked about that I could share. I think it's season 2. My goodness. Come on, Rebecca. Okay, I'll find it and I'll get back to you. I remember listening to Luann Nigara's podcast like years ago when it first started. I remember she used to do this all the time. She's like, I'm going to tell you what episode number it was. And to be honest, I always valued that because it's easier to remember a number than it is like a name or a title. So I will get this one for you. Anyhow, so back to the discovery call. When you have that conversation on the telephone, there's no pressure. And this is what I've learned. There's no pressure because they haven't hired you yet. So you don't need to stress about, oh my God, if I tell this to them, they're going to be upset with me. And what does this mean? Like if they're upset with you and you tell them you don't share your discounts, then good riddance. They can go off and do their thing, right? So anyhow, all that to say, I think it all starts, I don't know where this is. That's so weird. All that to say is you got to start at the very beginning and you've got to let them know, who you are and what you do and set their expectations. My script has specific questions. So if you want to have a look at specific questions and that I ask as it pertains to money, as it pertains to process, as it pertains to client budgets, then definitely download the script. I'm not going to go through that here today, but I do think that is a useful starting point. Because if you express to a potential client at the beginning what's going on in the industry right now, then they are really well informed. I always say in our designers room community, we have a monthly membership that currently is only open to alumni from Power of Process, which is my online course. I might change that in the future. I don't know. But for now, that's how it is. And I always say to those designers, I say, you've got to repeat yourself early and often. Early and often. Early and often. Often, 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 and early and often. And often. Because just because you say, just because you say it one time doesn't mean that it resonates, doesn't mean that somebody listens. There's so much information coming at a client. There's no way they can process all of it. So I say the discovery call is your first point. Well, it's not really your first point, actually. Let me go back for a second. That's your first connection, like conversation with the client. But before that, they are seeing you in all your touch points, right? The top of your funnel. If you're looking at a marketing funnel, touch points. Like, are you on Instagram? Are you on Facebook? Do you have a website? Do you write a blog? All of those are areas to educate your client on whatever you think is important about you, about the industry, about anything. And it's not just about sharing pretty pictures. Everyone knows you're a great designer and nobody cares. I'm sorry. I'm being like tough love today. There's a lot of freaking great designers out there that's part of why they're hiring you, but they're really hiring you for all the other things because so many people can design. Like, look at your competition. There's so many of us out there. We have our own aesthetic and that's part of what makes us unique. But the other things are how we work with our clients, how we educate them, what our process is. Like, what are those pillars? I'm getting off side a little bit here. So let me bring it back. So the beginning is when you're educating them top of the funnel, right? But then we tell clients in advance what it costs to work with us. We send them a document, and I share this in Power of Process, but it's an About Us document that says, we are Rebecca Hay Designs. Here's what it means to work with us. We walk them through our process. We walk them through how we calculate our design fee. We walk them through what we're proud of, our sustainability, the press that we've garnered, past client testimonials. We do all of that to set them up for success so that before I have a phone call with them, they know A, more or less what it's going to cost to work with us, B, what we're passionate about, and C, they see how freaking organized and professional we are. So then the discovery call is your opportunity to ask the questions. And if you are going through, and this is what I've found, is that we're in a weird place right now in the world, or in our lives, I guess you could say, where like construction has gone up an insane amount. That is my opportunity to tell someone. I just had a call the other day with someone who sounded lovely. She loves our design aesthetic. And let me just tell you, for so many years, clients just contacted me because they needed a designer. I didn't have an aesthetic. I'm using air quotes right now. And so I didn't have, people weren't hiring me because of my look. Now people are like, oh, I love your look. I love this project that you did. And so part of my ego is like, oh my God, they love everything that I do. Like for the longest time, that was my goal. My goal was to only have clients who want my design aesthetic, as opposed to clients that I used to have a lot, which was clients who wanted ultra modern, someone wanted traditional, someone just had no freaking taste. And they just wanted me to like validate their terrible decisions. You know what I mean? If you're just starting out, or if you've been doing this for a long time, you know what I mean. Those clients that just have because you maybe haven't established a design aesthetic of your own, but they just want a designer and they're not really picky about it and they don't really know what they like. But then they question all your decisions. Right? Or they like something totally different than you and there's nothing wrong with it, but it's not what you want. For the longest time, I was like, oh my God, I can't do another high gloss white kitchen. It's so not my style. But I did it because I was like, well, I don't know where the next work's coming from, so I'm going to do it. So now is your time in the call to talk about all of these things. So now when someone says, oh, we love your design aesthetic, part of my ego says, oh my God, this is great. This is my ideal client. But no, because my ideal client has shifted. And so I need to know more information. That's not enough anymore. And so I say, how much money are you prepared to invest in this project? And when the number that they give me is not realistic, I will tell them in the call. So someone recently wanted to add, I think it was a third story and do some other work to their house, including decorating, and they had a budget of $100,000 to $150,000. And I know just from current projects that we're working on, there is no way that we can do that work. Between construction costs, our design fee, plus any decoration, it's not enough money. So I told her right there in the call, I said, listen, the reality is that's probably not enough money to do everything that you're talking about and work with a designer. Maybe you could do it if you're DIYing it yourself, but the reality is that the costs in the construction industry have gone up considerably. And based on most of our very most recent projects, here are some numbers. And that's when I'll share like numbers, and I talk about that in the discovery call script. So I'm not going to get into those details, but you can see how letting a client know early on and then repeating it at the consultation, repeating it when you meet them on trade day, right? Having that continual dialogue, reminding them, this is the budget, or discounts. That's a big conversation. Okay, so start early and often talking about the subjects that you find are causing friction in your current projects, because God forbid, you're having friction with a client right now who wants your discounts. You never passed them on, but you didn't communicate it. So now you feel obligated to pass them on to the client for whatever reason. The last thing you want is for a new project that's going to start in a few months to go down that exact same route. Learn from your own current situation, learn from your mistakes, learn your lessons, or learn them from somebody else like me, because I share all of them. So let's talk now about what are those things that we feel uncomfortable communicating, or from what I understand from this, the request in our designer meetup Facebook group is, actually, I'm just going to read it. So Charlie says, I just do you have tips on or a podcast on this? What's this? Here we go. Okay, sorry. I want stats on how prices have increased in various areas, plumbing, lighting, fabric, labor, etc., and how specifically the supply chain has suffered and what that means to the end user. Ultimately, how to explain this without saying COVID delays or COVID price increase. It's true. But also I need more whys to explain it, because I think people are fatigued with simply just that response. This is such a great question. Hold on, let me take a sip of my tea. This is a great question because all of us are getting it, right? all of us are seeing delays. All of us are seeing price increases. And how annoying. And one of our designers on our team always says like, I'm so sick of people using the COVID excuse, right? Like I can't use the change rooms at Zara because it's COVID. But, over there in the Gap, they're using the change rooms. It's like people are lazy and they don't want to come up with a response. And I totally get it. I think that educating our clients on what's really happening is really important because think about it. You're on Instagram, you follow a designer, she posts the shipping containers, floating in the ocean. Oh, cool. Okay, now you know about that. Then somebody else reshares, a news article on supply chain issues with, I'm trying to think of an example. Shortages, here we go, like shortages on fabric coming out of India because there's been a monsoon. Or what have you. You are being fed this information because you are a designer and you are in that field and you are exposed to it. Chances are it would be very rare that your client has that same knowledge. Just because, this goes for anything in life, just because the knowledge is out there on the intraweb does not mean everyone is seeing it, right? Have you guys seen the social dilemma? We are all being fed information that we want to see or that helps and affects our life. Chances are your clients are hiring you because they're not in that world. They don't know where to shop. So don't take for granted the knowledge that you have. Don't assume. Assumptions make an ass of you and me. Never assume that your clients understand why there are delays. So I think this is a really great question, Charlie. So thank you very much for asking it. Here's what I know. And I would say I'm not an expert. I haven't delved into what's going on in the world and I'm not reading all of the articles. So I don't have my finger on the pulse, but I don't think you need to have your finger on the pulse of all the details of this factory got shut down due to COVID. Therefore, the light bulbs, blah, 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 blah. However, it's helpful to know what's going on in the industry so you can give your clients a little bit more of a detailed explanation. So here's what I like to say. I want to break it into construction and then materials because I think they're two different things. I made my tea again. It's getting cold. I don't drink tea fast enough. Take a sip of your tea too, if you're here with me. Someone said, I love your podcasts. I feel like we're just sitting having tea or coffee together. So let's legit have tea and coffee together. Actually, legit, does anybody want to do a retreat with me? Because I've had this idea mulling over my head. I think we're all so anxious to be together. And I love to freaking travel. And so I kind of had this idea of doing a getaway for designers. I don't know if it would just be for my designer's room or open to the public. I haven't decided. I would guess it would be based on interest, but a a retreat for designers where we can talk business and have some educational content, but also downtime and just social time and relaxation. Hit me up in my DMs or the meetup group if this is something you'd be interested in. Right now, it's just a seedling of an idea. My team's don't take on more this year. It's too much. But I really feel like we all need it. So if there's enough interest, I'll just do it. I'll figure out how to do it. Okay, so construction. From what I know, and this is Canadian statistics, based on Stats Canada's report that was released recently, here's some stats that I know, and now they may not be 100% accurate, but they're relatively good, would be that there has been an increase in construction costs in Canada between 2020 and 2021 of 10%. Then between 2021 and 2022, what we're currently in, construction has increased by approximately 24%. If you add those two numbers together, this is math I can actually do, you get about 35%, let's round it up, increase since pre-pandemic. That is a shit ton more money. Apologies for my French, but come on. Think about that. That means, what's 35%? Oh God, I'm so bad at that. You're building, let's say, a $4 million house. That $4 million house is now $5 million. We're trying to build a farmhouse, and the price we were quoted in August, based on the footprint we want, and that same footprint now, because we haven't built it yet, that price has gone up by 20%. And that's because we haven't even selected all the materials yet. So now we're scaling back on our build. I think those are useful statistics to share with your potential clients because they need to understand why. And it's not you just saying, oh, you don't have enough money to work with me. It's legit. The average person, if they're not really paying attention, does not understand that just construction alone has gone up. And that means the materials, right? So we know lumber, windows, all of the elements that are entailed with a renovation or a construction, a build, as well as the labor, because there is an increased demand. There's increased demand because during the pandemic, people were fed up with their homes. Money was cheap because interest rates are low. And so everyone and their uncle have decided they are going to buy, build, renovate, which is keeping the industry really booming. But that means there's a shortage of contractors and builders and qualified tradespeople. And so when there's a shortage, it's basic economics from high school. Supply and demand, right? The demand is very high. The supply of the qualified people and products is lower. Boom, prices go up. And you can also say, there's probably some companies that are taking advantage, right? And trying to gouge and make money off of this COVID thing. But in general, that's just what's happening. It's costing more money. So starting that conversation early, especially if it's someone who has an unrealistic idea of budget or a very tight budget, I think it's very useful to have that conversation. If you didn't do it in the discovery call, don't worry about it. Make sure you do it at the consultation. Talk about numbers early. Numbers are the one thing that I was always so afraid to talk about. Somebody would say, we're going to renovate our main floor. We have $150,000. And little designer me was like, oh, that's so much money. I'm like, yeah, oh, absolutely. We can certainly do that. And guess what? We would always be over budget because I was too nervous. I didn't know my numbers because I didn't have a lot of past project experience and I hadn't really asked around and I didn't have a coach, someone like me who's like telling it like it is, like these are the numbers, this is what it costs. And B, I did not feel comfortable having that conversation with my client. I would just behind the scenes secretly try to discount my hours or find a cheaper fabric. I would do all these things to fit within a budget that really wasn't realistic. And it cost me so much more time. And as a result, it cost me money in my team's time, in my own time. So have that money conversation early. The delays when it comes to construction, I still want to stay on this construction thing. The delays are varied reasons. And I think it's really interesting because everyone's like, well, what is it? What is the thing? Why is everything delayed? Why is the reality? It's so many factors that are all piling together. It could be, a typhoon in another part of the world, flooding. It could be electricity shortages in China. It's extreme cold and snowstorm in Texas causing a foam shortage because the factory shut down. It is so crazy how many little things around the world are happening that are seemingly unrelated. What relates them is that they're all within our industry and other industries too. So you can tell your clients, listen, it's not only about supply and demand because part of the delays are that there's an increased demand. So you've got, a need for people to up their production after being shut down, right? So they're locked down, shut down a lot of places, so they didn't produce. And then there's other factors affecting their ability to deliver, right? So that I hope that helps you guys with the construction. I mean, I can tell you lead times right now, windows are a really big one, 6 to 7 months for a window. I'm waiting for them for my own house. I know we've talked about it with our builder. It's the first thing we need to order now. It used to be that you'd start building and then at a certain point they would order the windows. Now they're ordering the windows before they even started the build, which is totally crazy. But it's the reality, right? Wood and lumber has become very expensive. I mean, these prices, are they going to go down? I don't think so. That's my own personal. Why would anyone lower prices? Think about that. It's not like it's gas. This is not. Anyways, that's a bigger conversation. I don't think so. Will it slow? Probably. But hey, I don't know. I'm not an economist. I can't tell you. I'm also not psychic or clairvoyant or whatever those things are called. So that sort of construction. And then that kind of takes us into the materials. So Charlie was asking about lighting, fabric, right? Labor. And like specifically the supply chain has suffered because of A, increased demand, as I said before, and B, various reasons why things are delayed. For a while there, and it's probably, we're still seeing this, there's one city, and I don't remember the name of the city. Oh, I can't remember, in China, where like all of the lighting is manufactured. China is a fascinating study, but the way China, from my understanding, and someone can correct me, but this is what I've heard, because there's so much manufacturing there, right? Is that different cities are known for different things. So there's like one city that's known for furniture. So there's an economy of scale. So all of the ships that are bringing the raw materials are going to that one city. All the labor force for furniture is in that one city. All the fabric's going to that one city, and then it's all shipping out from there. There is an area in China that is the one that I'm thinking of. I can't remember the name of it, where all of the lighting is manufactured. So all of the glass, the filaments, the parts that are needed for lighting are all going to that one city. I don't know if it's a city. I don't know if it's a province. Again, I've not been to China. This is just through people I know who work and travel there. It's really interesting. I'm sure you could Google it. But what happened was, now this could be a little bit off, but in my understanding, there was some because China is a communist country and they ration, for lack of a better term, all of their what are they called? Utilities. So electricity. Everyone has the same amount of allowed electricity to use to run their factories. Well, if you've used that up for the month, then your power goes out. It's not like in North America. Just keep using and keep paying, right? You have a rationed amount of electricity. And so factories were trying to operate under candlelight to keep up with the orders. So increased demand, now inability to meet that demand is going to create a shortage. I mean, your clients don't need to know all of this information, I don't think, but I do think it's helpful to say, listen, there's a supply and demand. There is, because of shutdowns, because of COVID, like actual, the virus, like going through factories, causing them to shut down, because of weather, inclement weather conditions, because of political strife, products are not making their way. And then the price increase for the materials, I mean, I can't speak to it because I do feel that it's changing almost daily. I feel like we get emails, and you guys know you get them too. We get an email saying, we've increased our prices. And then and Hunter Douglas has increased their prices 3 times since the pandemic. I just pick a number that feels like it covers everything. And I usually tell clients, listen, prices have increased about 30%. In some areas, they've gone up more. And some they've gone up less. But what you need to do is you need to start looking at these prices and start doing the math yourself so you can properly educate your clients. And I have these conversations at the discovery call. If someone says, well, we really only have this much to invest, that only word tells me they're very price conscious. And I want to make sure they understand that what it cost for you to do this same reno 3 years ago, it's not possible anymore. And that materials and lighting are extremely more expensive, and that there are incredible delays. And then what I say, because this is what we do, is I say, in order to, because then they want to know like, okay, well, how are you managing that, right? And so what I like to share is in order to try to help a little bit to mitigate some of the delays, we are doing our best to source locally Canadian products. We are, specifying custom furniture, whether that's a sofa, a table, a nightstand. And we are looking to consignment and vintage finds because that also fits with our ethos because we are very environmentally conscious. We're trying to select items that have a lower carbon footprint and won't end up in a landfill. And so that does help our lead times a little bit. So I share that. But I say we're not saving any money by doing that. There's not a lot of money to be saved these days, in my opinion. But again, that's because we are running a high-end design firm and we are not looking to shop IKEA. And that's the other thing. A lot of the big box store delays are way worse than some of the more local suppliers. So if you're a designer and you're like, oh, I really wish I had like a local supplier, ask around. Go into the Facebook group. Ask who can recommend what. Like what I've seen in our Facebook group anyhow, People are so generous and willing to share their sources, their vendors, their experiences. Like there's so much power in community. Use the community. You do not have to be alone. Okay. I feel like there was one other thing I wanted to share when it comes to this. I mean, people are fatigued. Like that is the reality. We are all frickin' fatigued. But I think that the earlier you can communicate these issues to your clients, discounts, that was it. The earlier you can communicate any of these issues to your clients and keep an open dialogue, the better. Before I talk about discounts, I just want to say we pride ourselves in doing a big reveal. And I was just actually talking to the Business of Home because they have an article coming out that we're hoping to contribute to. And we're talking about, our preference is a big reveal. However, sometimes with these delays, it's not possible. So we will do our best to hold off and get as much in there as possible, but we're not going to hold up your entire main floor decoration because the 8 dining chairs aren't coming for another 4 months or 5 months. So we're trying to make sure that we are managing client expectations that way so that they understand. And we communicate delays as they come, but we're not over communicating with every single product. If we hear that some bar stools are back ordered for a couple more weeks, but we know that the group of products aren't going to be ready for another 3 months, I'm not communicating every itty bitty delay to my client, but that's how we run our business because they've hired us to manage the details and to not kind of bother them with things until it becomes really an issue. So the last thing I wanted to talk about was discounts because I know so many of you asked me about this. When you're in a pickle with a client that now you think wants your discount, but you don't share them. First of all, I'm going to say you probably should have tackled this earlier, but this is what I say. Because I have had it happen where I thought the discount conversation doesn't come up anymore. I do not share my discounts, and I'm about to record a podcast for all of you about project profitability with my operations manager. We're going to walk you through numbers and talk about how you can actually make money as a designer. And spoiler alert, don't share your discounts. Anyhow, more on that in the next episode. I say, we used to pass on our discounts or we used to split our discounts with our clients. But to be honest, I found it wasn't a profitable business model. Those discounts are the margin that we use for all the extra communication that is required, especially now for product deliverables. So dealing with back orders, reselecting, rescheduling, that is a margin that is essential to keeping our business afloat. If they keep pushing, well, then they're the wrong client, let's be honest. But you could also say that is that discount or that markup, whatever you want to call it, has been built in for you as the repeat client. You have spent hours and years probably building up these relationships with these vendors. And because you are the preferred client, you get a preferred price. It's not something that just gets thrown out to the public. But the reality is you should not have to defend whether you pass on your discounts or not. It is your business model. You are free to charge what you want as long as your client accepts it and is happy. Okay, I'm going to sign off because that's a lot. I hope you guys found something useful in this episode. Again, go get my discovery call script. It's on RebeccaHay.com, and I hope you guys use it. Let me know how it's going, if you like it, if it's useful. And again, I want to see you guys in Power of Process. So hopefully I'll get to see you guys and welcome you in when we launch it this year. We do it once a year. I always say I'm going to try and do it a second time in the year, but then time gets away from me. So don't count on it. So anyhow, that's it. And let me know if you want to travel with me and go on a retreat. Okay. Have a good day, and I'll see you soon.